Right now, new developments on the protests over alleged racially charged incidents at the University of Missouri. Investigators say a 19-year-old student at a different school in the U of Missouri system admits that online threats he made against black students and faculty were patterned after similar threats linked to last month's mass shooting in Oregon. The posts showing up online one day after the Missouri campus erupted in protest. Those demonstrations forced the resignation of University President Tom Wolf, as well as the university chancellor, over what protesters called Wolf's inadequate response to those alleged racist incidents. Meanwhile, the media coverage reaching critical mass, with some outlets praising student activist Jonathan Butler. He helped get the ball rolling, leading away with a week-long hunger strike on campus. In an in-depth profile, ESPN.com writes, quote, "Deep inside, he was reaching his breaking point. He'd been called the N-word, had his health benefits cut, and witnessed overt acts of discrimination throughout the campus. Those acts seemed to escalate in the year since the Ferguson riots." We want to take this a little further now. Joining us to discuss, Juan Williams, a Fox News political analyst, and Daniel Henninger, deputy editorial page editor for the Wall Street Journal. Juan, we had you on yesterday to talk about this, our discussion a little bit truncated by, well, just the nature of things. But also there are some new developments, and I want to go through some of them here. This one was in Daniel Henninger's Wall Street Journal today. It says, student Jonathan Butler listed among the reasons for his hunger strike that graduate students were being robbed of their health insurance. Less noted in the news coverage is that the health insurance cutbacks are the explicit result of the Affordable Care Act. Obamacare's regulations forbid employers such as universities from paying for their graduate students' health insurance. That little nugget didn't get noticed in all of this brouhaha until outlets like the Wall Street Journal brought it up today, Juan.
Well, actually, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal editorial yesterday, John. I saw it, and I was interested that those benefits then were reinstated. So I don't know exactly how the school did it, but it is an example of sort of the liberal wish list coming back to bite the graduate students, who I bet are mostly liberals themselves, in terms of the consequences of the rules of Obamacare. And
then there's this. The Omaha World Herald put out this in the bio of Jonathan Butler, the guy who started this. Butler is one of 3 children of Eric and Cynthia Butler, pastor and co-pastor at Joy of Life Ministries. And then, almost as an aside, Eric Butler is the executive vice president for marketing and sales of Union Pacific. Leave it to a columnist in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch to take that a little farther. Butler's father is Eric L. Butler, executive vice president for sales and marketing for the Union Pacific Railroad. His 2014 compensation was $8.4 million, according to regulatory filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So this guy who is going on a hunger strike, leading, an entire campus in a protest that brings the dismissal of the chancellor and the president, Daniel, his father is paid about $8.5 million a year and has a net worth of $20 million.
Well, I think you just put your finger on the core issue here, John. That is that Tim Wolf, the president of the University of Missouri, a campus with 35,000 students, has been fired. And the question is, why exactly was Mr. Wolf forced to resign? I mean, when the charge is made that he was responding inadequately to accusations of racism on that campus, what were they thinking should have been an adequate response? And I mean, I think this is an issue that is being engulfed in truth, half-truth, and rumor. We do not know exactly what the nature was of these alleged racist acts, and they have been kind of reported as simple fact. And it is not entirely clear what happened down there, how often it happened, and whether it really merited the resignation of the president of a university with 35,000 students.
Yeah, one of the alleged racial incidents, Juan, is that somebody supposedly used excrement to write a swastika on a bathroom wall somewhere on the university campus. First of all, not many people, want to do that, first of all. But secondly, there's no picture of it that I'm aware of. It has been pointed out, and Rich Lowry mentioned it yesterday off camera, this is an era in which college students take pictures of what they have for lunch. So if this poop swastika existed, shouldn't there be an image of it somewhere?
Well, I don't know. You would think, but I don't know. You would think the police, for example, would have something on this. The police said that when it comes to the picture, they haven't seen it, and they can't testify that they even saw it and say that, they can testify that it existed. I think it has become a meme among conservative media, John, that lots of these incidents are made up by people who are seeking some redress and, sort of involved in sort of a grievance industry. The question in my mind as I'm watching all of this is, how much of it is young people on the campus, especially young people of color, is I think only like 8%, which is pretty low, and who are feeling like, they're just not comfortable on campus for one reason or another. You mentioned at the very top of this segment that somebody now is under arrest for having threatened lives and using the N-word and all that. So there's something real there, but I don't know what it is. And, it's again, with the case of Butler, I think he is being made into this superhero guy, and I'm all for people standing up for their rights. I don't care if they're rich or poor. In fact, when the rich stand up, they may have more to risk. But I think you have a legitimate question saying, exactly what are you standing up for, Mr. Butler, and explain it to us and articulate it, make your case. Just having the hunger strike isn't enough, and I think that's why you see them so angry at the media, because so many in the media just don't get it. But I think they fail by not telling us what it is that you are so upset about at the University of Missouri.
Well, Juan, now students at Ithaca College are basically pointing to what happened in Missouri and saying, we want the same thing here. We want our administration out. And it seems to be sort of, just a mob rule almost, deciding what is good for the university.
Well, that's right, John. It's degenerating into a kind of mob rule. It looks very much like what happened to the campuses in the 1960s when students were protesting and very much destroying these institutions as a place of higher learning. And the fact that we could be sliding that far back downhill after all this time, and I completely agree with what Juan is saying. Why don't these protesters give us a clearer idea of what they want? Because if they don't, it's pretty clear that what they merely want to do is take over these campuses and run them. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it has occurred to me, if Jonathan Butler wants to do something productive and has all this money behind him, why doesn't he volunteer to become the next president of the University of Missouri and let him take a fling at running it?
Right. Well, that'd be a hell of a success.
We'll see. And again, there's just not an awful lot of corroboration for these incidents that propelled the University of Missouri to dismiss its top 2 officers. We'll keep an eye on it. Juan Williams, Daniel Henninger, thank you both.
Thanks, Jim.
Meanwhile.